Thank you for watching this short video. It is a heart response in request to the many replies I've received from our previous YouTube video on dealing with major depression. In that short space of time, it was very difficult to give an in-depth appraisal of the real impact on my life. But what I share with you is not to court your sympathy, but to really raise awareness of a problem that really does blight lives and sadly stigmatizes so many where they become the modern day leper. We know that 1 in 3 are affected by depression, and we know that there are different types of depression. There's endogenous depression that's from within, and there's reactionary depression to such as a bereavement, a tragic loss, a tragedy, a major life experience such as a divorce, moving house. In my case, clearly it was endogenous but triggered by the reaction of Prozac in my bloodstream. But what I couldn't share at the time, due to time, was the fact that from being a law-abiding citizen and one who was very careful with one's limited resources and funding, especially my meager salary as a nurse, I went from being that so-called in-control person to being an out-of-control lunatic. And when others tried to share with me that I was behaving rather oddly, I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't listen to it. I would dismiss it as being their problem, that they had an issue. I was okay. How dare you criticize me? But I was out of control. But what was so alarming, because as a nurse I had a nickname as the General when I ran a very busy medical unit in Manchester as the senior nurse there. But when I moved to North Wales and took up a different post and became more involved in palliative care on night duty, a lot of my colleagues found me rather strange in that I was strict. There were clear boundaries and you didn't overstep them. But I tried to be a friend. But many of them resented me because I was an outsider coming in, not having trained in that particular part of the world. But when I became mentally ill, high as a kite, they preferred me being as high as a kite to being the strict old disciplinarian that I was. But what I found so tragic, whilst on medication, Prozac, whilst it helps others, it blocked me from grieving the loss of my dear friend of 28 years. It's as if everything within me was put on hold, and I had to work through the monster that was brewing inside me. And though I had all the anecdotal evidence to support my case in court, from psychiatrists, psychologists, support workers, from the mental health team, you name it, I had lots of character references to say that when I was put on this drug, I became a living nightmare. But it was dismissed by the judge. And I remember being taken away in a prison van, and I cried from the bowels of my being, my God, why have you forsaken me? I've given you all my life, and to think that I'm now labelled a criminal, a convict. And it hit the headlines in the local press, and all the good work that I'd done, over 18 years, 12 years there, in setting up a hospice for women and children with AIDS, with the support of the late Princess Diana. All of that was tarred by my mental illness. And all I did in my manic episode was a cheque was made payable of £500 to the charity I'd set up. But I altered it to be paid to me. And I didn't think anything wrong of that, because I was as high as a kite. I paid it into the bank. And then the following morning, I had a rational moment and I thought, I'm going to go to the bank and ask, did I do anything wrong? And I did. But the cheque had been cleared, but I didn't have any cash. It was going through the clearing system, but it wasn't cleared to give you money. And I happened to say, look, I've done something really wrong. I've altered that cheque to be paid to me and not to the charity I founded. Can it be stopped? And then immediately the police were called. Before I knew it, I had to go through 2 years of a living hell. And it was very uncomfortable and it was nerve-wracking. But I went in faith, trusting, but not realizing the full impact of what mental illness had done to my life. But all I remember is when I was taken away and taken into prison, my friends who knew me contacted the prison and I was put on a suicide watch every 15 minutes. But in that prison, God found me and He empowered my little boy 4 months into my sentence to heal my inner child, because I had an inner wounded child. Being the eldest son of a large Catholic family, I never really felt loved. I was the rescuer, so nursing for me for 38 years was the ideal role because I could escape my reality and pretend. But that pretense came down and I had to embrace my shadows. But in the prison I got involved in the Christian group there for morning prayer, where I would meet other inmates with other inmates and we would pray together. That was a great support. And I worked in the polytunnel with the former ex-priest who was in for embezzling millions. And the two of us had responsibility for 48,000 aubergine plants. And you know what was so funny? My aubergine plants that finally produced wonderful fruits. The prison had an exhibition at the Southport Flower Show in that August 1998, and they came first prize. And my friends went there and took pictures to send to me. Being in prison taught me an awful lot. It gave me a greater understanding of life, and I met such wonderful, wonderful men, but I also met others that were very scary. And I did experience a lot of beatings and brutality and mind games from the prison officers. But there was one who was compassionate and knew that I wasn't a criminal. But God had a plan. And because I refused to listen to God, because I refused to connect with my guilt-ridden heart as a Catholic Christian, the only place where God could touch me was in one of Her Majesty's 5-star hotels. Forgive me, it wasn't. It was a living hell, but the good that's come from it is that my breakdown became my breakthrough. And the person you see today is a much richer person for that. Though I lost a lot of friends that I thought were genuine, but they've become fair weather. And a lot of my nurse colleagues that I befriended and helped train, they didn't want to know. The nursing profession I gave my life to didn't want to know. And that is so sad, because you give your life caring for the sick and the dying, but when one falls by the wayside, they don't care about those who've given their lives to upholding standards. It's as if you don't matter, you're a number, you're in a system. Get on with it, to hell with you. But let me just share this. I'm not looking to you for pity. I know that I carry a great burden. Forgive me, the phone is ringing. And I just want you to know that there is hope. And if you seriously want hope, help, then ask God to touch your life and give you the strength, and let God come into your heart and find you the people who can touch you and inspire you and love you. And it will happen. It happened for me, where I was taken in and loved and supported by 3 beautiful friends who believed in me, who supported me in prison, and who knew that for some reason or another I had to go through this experience. So forgive me for going on, and forgive this distraction. It could be God calling Sean. Hang in there, don't give in, and don't let others intimidate you or browbeat you, as they did me. And as a therapist who started off over 12 years ago in self-employment, I took myself away from the Mental Health Act, because after 4 years I was going nowhere, because every 6 months the duty psychiatrist would change, and you had to relive your nightmare of child abuse, prison, nursing, that you came away feeling worse than when you went. And in the end, I had a bad experience with a psychiatrist who was quite a randy man, and he was more interested in my love life, which I didn't have, and getting his hand in my drawers. And I had to remind him I was a professional nurse, and he was shocked. I said, haven't you read my notes? I don't have time to read your notes. You're here to tell me. And I said, well, if you persist with this and demand that I come back, then I shall report you. So I said, I want to discharge myself, take responsibility for my life, and move on. He looked in horror. I said, I mean what I say. I need to take my power back, because I'm the one that's having to live with this nightmare, not you. So at least give me a chance. So with the New Deal for disabled people here in England, I became self-employed on World Angels Day in 2001. Yes, it was hard, because for 3 years, every time I heard a police siren, I would pee my pants. Isn't that tragic? And then when neighbours got to find out that where I'd moved to, that I'd been in prison, it was really hard on every level. But undeterred, I trusted in God. And it's taken a good number of years to rebuild my life, but I've not done it on my own. I've had a handful of good friends around me, and I thank God for them. And that's what you need when you're battling with mental illness. You need to feel safe, loved, and respected. Not only by family and friends, they're fair weather, but by professionals who care for you. But you need to be honest with yourself. True to thine own self be true, or to thine own self be true. I know that many people, when they find out that I've got this blip in my CV, they don't wish to come and see me as a client, because they see me as some bad person. Maybe, but before God, I know that I thank God, because that painful time in prison gave me, the opportunity to self-heal, because I'd spent 40 odd years running away from my truth. But now I'm free, In the eyes of the world, they see me as being some baddie, but in the eyes of God, in the eyes of my own heart, I'm a child of God. But being inside looking out has given me a greater empathy, because I met so many beautiful young people who are filial children. They've never known love. They're institutionalized. Everything's done for them in prison. They can't cope with the realities of the world, and when they go back out, they commit petty crime because they can't cope with the pressures and the deviousness. But what I found so tragic, there are so many people in positions of authority in the world who lie through their back teeth and get away. The bankers, the church, politicians, and they knowingly do this. And I said in prison there are more criminals who are white-collar employees and employers than there are prisoners in prison. But I'm judging, and I'm sorry. But if you are affected by mental illness or you're supporting someone, please hang in there. Don't give in. And don't listen to what other people say to you. People will name and shame you, as people have named and shamed me because of what my brother did to me on the internet when I had to have him reported for cruelty to my mum. He told his employers, "Oh, take no notice of my big brother, he's mentally ill. Oh, he's gone with the wind." So my report, my allegations of cruelty were dismissed. But I can live with my conscience, can you? So please, if you are in a relationship and your partner is affected by mental illness, seek help. Help is available. I'm not asking you to become a born-again Christian because I'm not one of them. I'm an ordinary man who had to be broken in his ego, in his stubbornness, in his pride and arrogance, in order to learn to walk again as a child of God. So I don't live for tomorrow, I live for now. I live in this moment. And each day is a new day. Remember, yesterday, history, tomorrow, mystery. Today is our miracle. Embrace it. And thank you for listening to an old monk share with you, but I've done it from my heart to empower you. Take back your power and give yourself your self-worth back again. Aren't you worth it? Of course you're worth it. You are a beautiful child of God, and let no one put you down. No one. God bless you. Oh, I do have a CD download of a beautiful meditation, not with God, not with angels, that was done over 12 years ago, that has touched a lot of people's lives affected by mental illness. If you would like a free copy, it's my gift to you. Contact me. Brother Sean, lowercase, SEAN @btinternet.com, and I'll willingly share it with you as a gift to a fellow sufferer. God bless.